Yes, and welcome to another Digital Solutions webinar. My name is Stewart Fleming. I will be your host for today. And today we are going to tame time. We are going to explore the secrets of a Time Lord. This is, as I said, part of the Digital Solutions service that is funded by the federal government, coordinated through Business Station and Regional Development Australia. So this is a series of, webinars, and you can also get one-to-one coaching from myself or a bunch of other ASBAS or digital solutions providers. So let's jump in with Taming Time. Now, I originally wrote this to try and get people to understand how, well, really actually it came from, how do I get to do so much in such a short amount of time? And it is actually based on I started learning about time management back in this is going to age me, isn't it? 1988, I think I did my first priority management course on time management. And I thought it was a good start, but there's more you can squeeze in. There's more ways and techniques. And so today I'm going to try and give you back an extra hour every week for the rest of the year. So from now on, for a 12-month period, let's go more than just the rest of the year, because we're in August already, right? So from today, I'm going to see if I can squeeze an extra hour into your week every week. Now, would that be useful for you? Is that something that you think, yep, I could definitely use that extra hour? In fact, can you give me 2? How much more time do you think you need in your week before time management wouldn't be an issue? Now, we've got the chat window there. What I want you to do is take notes that appeal to you. All of my webinars are a little bit like drinking from the fire hydrant. There's lots and lots of stuff coming at you, and it's a bit hard to understand what to do. And so I give this advice at the start of all my webinars and workshops. I want you to take notes that make sense to you. There's no point writing down everything, every topic and every point that I make, and then never actually implementing any of them. So if I can encourage you to write down the things that make sense to you, the things that the ideas, whether I say them or it's inspired you or you remember something that someone else said, jot that down, whatever it is that you feel that you can take action on. So let's set some expectations for today. Firstly, you can ask questions at any time. We've got quite a few people on, but that's fine. You just ask questions whenever you feel like it. And I will see if I can answer them as we go. Excellent. So yeah, we actually have a few people that have been on this one before, which is good. So I will, and each one of these, I find that I do mix it up a bit. I do change and add extra little bits and pieces. So if you've been before, welcome back. If you haven't, hang on, you're in for a fun ride. So we're going to look at what is time. I will whip through that reasonably quickly. We're going to then talk about bending time, which is a really fun topic. And in the workshop scenarios, I go into that in a lot more depth. We'll talk about planning it, some tools to help you manage it better, and again, bend it to your will. And then, of course, I'm a coach, so there'll be homework, but ideally, you'll set your own homework. That's the ideal scenario, is that you will create a list of things and then you'll prioritize them. And then that will be your homework, will be, what do you want to get done? Again, if there are any questions, just pop them into the chat window. But let's have a look at what time is. Now, for those who've already been through this, you'll actually get all of this already. But so I even find it useful to go through it again. Firstly, it's man-made. Most of time is man-made. So minutes and seconds, they're not carved into the fabric of the universe. We created them to try and work out and keep us all in a language which we can talk to each other with. So a week, we all understand what a week is, but a week is man-made. We decided that it's a week. Now, a day is set by the rotation of the earth. That's not set by us, so that's not man-made. But the concept of a day is. So it's kind of interesting how much of time and what we talk about time is man-made. It's relative. So if you've ever been in a car accident, you'll notice that time slows down or speeds up. Or if you've been in class looking at the clock, waiting for the bell to ring, and you're looking at it, seconds seem to take forever. So time can be relative. It's an illusion. So time can play tricks with you. And we'll cover that in a little bit more depth a little bit later, but it is absolutely limited. You do not get more of it. And as far as we know, for the moment, time goes in one direction, forward. But there's tricks. There's some very cool tricks. So we might talk a little bit more about that today, because I don't know that I covered it last time. So this might be an extra little bit. It is incredibly useful if it's used properly. You get 24 hours in the day. How are you going to use each of them? And if I can get you an extra hour back a day, what would that do? What if I got you an extra 2 hours a day? What if you managed to squeeze in about 26 hours worth of stuff into 23 hours? So let's talk about bending time. And again, if there are any questions on that previous slide, please put them in the chat window. But let's talk about bending time. One of the more interesting ways of bending time is fun. So when things are fun, and I don't mean when you ask an adult, what do you do for fun? Oh, I watch TV. Okay. Now, unless you're rolling on the floor laughing, we've got to change our definition of fun at this point. When is the last time you had some actual fun? Some fun that makes your voice go high. That's fun. Fun that affects your voice, fun that affects the way your brain thinks. That type of fun can dilate time. And you can use that. If you get really excited about a task and you throw yourself into it, time will disappear. Go quickly. All right, well, that's kind of interesting, Stu, and I guess I see what you're saying, but why is that useful? Well, it's useful in that imagined and encouraged, like if you can actually force fun. Oh, I don't want to be fake. Stop that right now. Please don't say that. You're fake on everything. Everything that you do is a reaction and a perceived reaction to something that happens. So if you say, oh, but I saw it and it was black. Yes, but your brain had to do 9 separate steps to work out that was black. Could any of those steps have gone wrong? Everything you see is perception. Everything you act on is perception. And so deciding that this is fun, that's perception too. So you can encourage yourself to have fun. You can encourage all sorts of stuff. Are you going to use this for your benefit or not? That's the choice. So having fun. When was the last time you had fun? Have a think about that. My wife is a vocal coach, and she's totally amazing. She can tell when her clients last had fun, whether it was a month, a week, a year, 10 years, because their voice starts to go low. And they might say they're very excited, but they're really not. And it's not just that, there's a couple of other tells. But if they start to talk up a little bit and they have more upper partials, and then this sound, I've just had some fun and I'm going to have some fun again tomorrow. And this lasts 4 weeks. Kind of cool, hey? Gratitude, focus, and intention will absolutely bend time for you. Gratitude is one of those ones I cover off in a number of different webinars because it's one of the strongest ones for changing the blood flow in your brain, for changing your blood chemistry. So being grateful for anything, the concept of gratitude, of being grateful, will change the way you see time and all sorts of things. But the other one is focus and intention, and that's kind of talking about being in flow. Have you ever been in flow doing something where the next thing you're just in the zone? For me, I've been in the zone I get in the zone a lot now, but one of the first times I really felt in the zone was when I was training. I'd get in, whether it was in the pool training or on the bike training, you just head down and you're in the zone, not thinking about anything else. I'm just in the zone getting stuff done. Now, that's a really cool way to be. And there's actually a whole theory or there's a whole stream of coaching education now on getting into flow. It's built on a bunch of other principles, but it's a really interesting place to start. So how do you get into flow? And some of the tools that I'll show you later will show you how to get into flow. Passion for tasks. So similar to gratitude, just being passionate for something allows you to throw creativity and other parts of your body into it. So engaging your emotions, you'll see, is starting to, so fun, gratitude, and passion. We're all talking about emotions. I'm not actually talking about specific tools, because if I can change the way you use your emotions to attack tasks, you will be bending time to your will. Now, you can also look at a clock, and I'm going to say it the way I think it. You can slow the second hand down. Now, you're not actually slowing time, but you're seeing it as being slower. And it's kind of a trick, and it's kind of really hard. It's not kind of hard, it is really hard. And I don't know that there's any benefit in doing it at all, because it only lasts for, I've managed to do it, I think, for 2 or 3 seconds. But I don't know that there's much benefit. Maybe if you extended it and you managed to do it for 15 minutes, that's an awfully long time to go from 1 second or 2 seconds up to 15 minutes. So it's possible, probably less useful than just getting hold of gratitude and passion. What is it that you're passionate about? And how do you get your passion into the task that you're currently trying to do? Interruptions. One of those key elements for trying to bend time is to make sure interruptions are only just that. They're not long pauses between tasks, they're just small interruptions. And so practicing them becomes really, really useful. I went to a silent retreat, and it was up at the local Buddhist temple. And for a day, you're not allowed to speak, you're not allowed to look anyone in the eye, you're not allowed to make any sounds. I'm like, okay, cool. It was actually kind of hard to speak afterwards. So what happened, and look, this is just a generalization of the people who were there at the time. But when they said, okay, and this ends your silent meditation, you can now speak, I looked around at the other guys and we just went, didn't want to speak. We're kind of done. Like, we were actually happy. And the ladies in the course went, now, again, that's just a generalization of the people who were there in the course. I'm not saying women all need to talk and men never need to talk. That's not the case. But I found it actually kind of hard to make my first words. But when I did, I asked the monk, how often do you practice meditating when it's not quiet? Like, what was the reasoning behind not allowing noise that's not vocal noise? So we had to be quiet. We had to very quietly move our chairs. We had to quietly pick things up and put them down. I said, what's the rationale behind that? And he said, well, people are meditating. We don't want to disturb them. I thought, oh, okay, fair enough. I said, do you ever meditate where it's not quiet? He said, oh, no. Oh. Now, I'm a little bit odd, but in my mind, if you can't do it under pressure, you can't do it very well. In my mind, meditating in a childcare center just after red cordial o'clock, that's when you know you can do it. Because at that point, the kids are screaming, they're running around, they're pulling your hair. You can meditate in that environment. You got this. I prefer to do things under pressure. So I practice interruptions. get yourself to a point where interruptions do not affect you as much. Now, so when you change tasks, there is a cost to changing tasks in terms of time. If you, and you've probably had this because most people have, where you feel like you've just spent the entire day changing tasks and not actually got anything done. Because every time you change task, it takes you, there's an effort involved in actually trying to get that, that next task right in your brain. And at that point, just as you're about to get started, you change tasks again, you actually aren't getting stuff done. So one of the things for practicing interruptions, I'm going to give you a little tool here, is to bookmark. Now, bookmarking is the idea that, so, you know, one of my backgrounds is software development. I did a couple of IT degrees and spent a few years as a software developer. And there's a thing called, you know, if you get an error, you dump the core. You write down all the state of what where the program's at. And I use that to bookmark where I am. So if I'm just about to start a webinar, I will write down wherever I was on the task just before that. I will write it in such a way that it's really easy for me to pick up and run with again. So in terms of starting the task, I know the very next step. That's all for me. I just need to know what's the next step. What am I up to right now? What's the next step? Where this became really, where I sort of really developed this was writing software. I was working for the Queensland Government. I was writing software and someone would come up and say, hey, have you got a second? I'm like, if I turn around right now, I'm going to forget all the places that I'm at. I'm going to have to reread through all of that and work out where I'm at, and then I'll be able to start again. So I was like, hang on. And I just write out longhand, what's next? What is the next thing I need to do? Where am I at? You know, I've got that variable there, I've got this here, I've got that there. Next step will be just to write the error code and blah, 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 and comment this. Just write that, and then I'll say, yes, what do you want? And so when I go to pick it up, future Stu, so not me, but the guy that's going to pick that up in the future, the version of me that will pick that up knows exactly what to do, and there is much less lead time. So getting good at this is really, really, really useful. Bookmarking is one of those tools that you use all the time, because it turns out, and you're not going to believe this, you're going to believe this, that when you go to lunch, bookmarking before you go to lunch will make coming back from lunch easier. Wow. And as an added benefit, don't answer now, because I'll also throw in, when you go home at night, bookmarking will help your version of tomorrow pick up the task faster. But don't buy yet, because you also have weekends. So writing down where you are on Friday for Monday version of yourself is a fantastic way to make sure you're not thinking about it all weekend. But wait, there's even more, because at some point, hopefully, COVID ever stops, we're going to get to go on holidays. And it turns out that if you leave the relaxed version of yourself a really detailed note on where to get started, you'll have a much more relaxing holiday. Bookmarking is awesome. Get good at it. Now, my recommendation is to start quite verbose. Write down more than you think you need to start with. And over time, you'll get better at writing less and less. But leave future version of yourself notes. I did see a really cool, it was a picture of a note on the fridge. And it started off in fairly formal handwriting. Dear drunk Steve, you've drunk too much. So I've put water in the fridge and some food. Eat the food and drink the water before you go to bed, and you'll feel much better. And underneath it scrawled was, dear sober stinky Steve, you suck. I ain't doing what you said. And then underneath that, in slightly less scrawly writing, was, dear drunk Steve, you should have done what sober Steve told us. I have such a splitting headache. We can leave notes for ourselves, but we actually have to do what they say. Is there any questions on bookmarking? Has anyone ever tried this? Do you use it already? I'm just curious to see, there's nothing new under the sun. I came at this from, my own angle. I didn't read this anywhere. I just started doing it. And it's been really, really useful. So I got better and better at it. Excellent. So you've been using it and it has helped. Excellent. Keep using it, keep getting better at it, do more of it. If you find that you can't sleep at night, one of the good ways is if you find that you're thinking about stuff, leave the morning version of yourself a note. All right, because you can always go and pick it up. If you find that you still can't sleep and you're still running through those same thoughts, there's a good chance you didn't leave it in enough detail. So that's the hint. Okay. All right, let's move on from practicing interruptions to rhythm and flow. We talked about that a little bit, about getting into flow. And I do talk a little bit about that in Authentic Authority. But what is your flow? What's your rhythm? So we're going to cover off this in one of the tools in a minute. But I will use music a lot. There's certain music I have for certain tasks because I found that gets my brain into the rhythm of that particular task. So I do not run at 1,000,000 miles an hour despite what everybody says. Don't need to. I need to run at the speed the task I am doing requires. So what that means is that some tasks, my detail focused tasks, they need a proper attention. If I run at that at 1,000,000 miles an hour, I'm going to miss things. So I have detail focused music. Do you have detail focused music? Do you have music or something that gets you in the mood to do detailed work? Do you have inspirational music for your strategy stuff, your big picture thinking? What's your big picture thinking music? Go to rhythm, sound. Do you have just getting stuff done? Faster pace for me. I've got a series of songs on just getting stuff done. Go hard. Do not need to focus on detail. I need to get it out the door. Minimum viable product. So getting into that rhythm and flow is really, really important. And again, I've got another tool or a tool that I use for that. And it just boils down to a ticking clock. But that helps with focus and attention, I guess, more so than rhythm and flow. Nutrition. There's some excellent information on the web about how nutrition can help you bend time. It's different for everybody. So I can't really, it's not worth my time at the moment or your time for me to go into all the different ways that this can happen. But it seems to be very variable and very specific to an individual. So, and over time, it will change too. So caffeine might be your thing to get you up and running and do the fasty tasks. So low burn stuff like a large carb stuff will be more for strategies. There's different ways that you can look at it, but it can be different for different people. And so have a look at and monitor. If you've got all the rest of this stuff sorted, then it's probably time to look at nutrition. Probably it's going to give you a less bang for your buck. It's that high performance end. And so if you're struggling with just getting bits and pieces done, stick with gratitude, focus, intention, and passion and fun. Practice your interruptions, your bookmarking, and find those things that get you into rhythm and flow, whether it's songs or whatever it happens to be. One of the places I used to work had formerly been a library, and I believe it was haunted by the spirit of a library not a person, but everybody seemed to whisper. Like, why are we all whispering? It just felt like you couldn't talk. And then I found out later that it had formerly been a library. I'm like, oh, that's just spooky. But I would walk up, I'm a bit of a stirrer. I'd walk up to someone and go, mana, mana, and then just walk off. Come back 15 minutes later and they're still be going. It's one of those songs you can't get out of your head. And I've just done it to you now too. So sorry about that. Mana, mana. Awesome. Any questions on bending time? Do you know where your passion is? Do you know how to have get your focus and intention really laser down? All right, let's move on. Oh, I forgot, accountability is on this slide. That's right, because one of those things that used to work a lot for me doesn't so much anymore. And again, all of this stuff can change over time, was accountability. So one of the things that I wanted to do was I said I was going to write a musical. I'd been asked to direct a show and they gave me the script and it was terrible, and I started to rewrite it and it was still terrible, and I said, right, I'm going to write an entire musical. So how do I make sure that happens? Well, for me at the time, I told every person I could find that I was writing a musical. Just enough, I wasn't trying to big note it, I was just letting everybody know. What happened as a result was I wrote a musical. The idea is outside extent accountability can, if that works for you, can help drive you forward. So if you've got a particular task and accountability is going to work for you, who are you going to tell that you're going to get it done? Give them a time frame, say I'm going to get this done by then. They may not care, but you've now told them, and the part of your brain is going to make that work for you. So it's really important to understand yourself. If you really want to bend time, if you really want to tame time, if you really want to become a time lord so that time works for you, not the other way around, then you have to understand yourself. You have to understand what's slowing you down. Like occasionally I'll be coaching someone who is a perfectionist. They say, I'm a perfectionist. I'm like, okay, cool. Is that you? Are you a procrastinator? What is it that for the moment is slowing you down? And remember, it's always for the moment, because you could fix it at any point. If that wasn't possible, I wouldn't be a very good coach. So accountability, a really cool way of bending time, because it actually forces more in, it forces you to gain focus and intention. Probably should, and probably that one should probably sit in the tools section, shouldn't it? All right, again, any questions, please let me know. Let's talk about planning it. So firstly, your 25-minute plan. So what can you get done in 25 minutes? Well, it turns out if you really focus, you can do a lot of stuff in 25 minutes. So one of the tools that I talk about is the Pomodoro technique. And we'll come to that in a second. But for those that have been on this and are coming back a second time, have you actually tried the Pomodoro technique? And if so, how has it worked? So while you're answering that, I'll explain it to the others. The Pomodoro technique is the idea that you do 25 minutes of one task. You focus on one task, get it done. Now, the pure Pomodoro technique says that if you finish within, say, 20 minutes, then you spend 5 minutes working out how you could have done it better, correcting it, improving it, creating a template out of it. What could you do to improve this? Then you take a 5-minute break. Now, your 5-minute break could be answering phone calls, doing something else. It's a break from that task. It's not a break from everything, right? You don't have to go and navel gaze for 5 minutes, though. If that's what you want to do, go for it. Make a cup of tea, go to the toilet, whatever it is. Come back, 25 minutes again. This is a really cool way of getting process improvement built into every half hour of your day. And I can tell you that Pomo To Do is the app, and I'll cover that off in a sec. but it keeps track of how many Pomodoros you complete. So how many 25 minutes you actually complete. And I know for a fact that when I feel like I've really accomplished it, had a really great week, I've done a lot of stuff, it will give me a weekly report and say, yes, my number was quite high. Now, I don't use it all the time. When I coach, it's sort of 1 hour, 50 minutes to an hour. So I'm not going to have a Pomodoro in there. If I'm driving, all sorts of stuff, I don't use it all the time. I tend to use it when things get crazy. And the crazier things get, the louder I turn up the little ticking clock, because it ticks at you. Anyway, how much can you get done in 25 minutes? Plan your 25 minutes. What are you going to get done in your day? Now, I tend to do my daily planning unless things are going completely haywire. My daily planning is done at the weekend. So I'm going to jump straight to weekly planning. This is a cool thing. And for those that have been on this before, are you doing your weekly planning and how is that working for you? If you can take one thing away, this is the one. Weekly planning for me changed. It absolutely changed how I was getting stuff done. Working out how to plan weekly has completely changed how much I can achieve in a week. So best practice is to do it on a Sunday. The person to guide your week is not me. It's actually you, but it's not any version of you. It's the most relaxed version of yourself that we can find in a week, which turns out for pretty much everybody to be a Sunday version of yourself. If you tend to work weekends and Monday, Tuesday is your Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, then it's the Tuesday version of yourself, whatever is your Sunday. The first step is to breathe. Do your planning. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do planning. Right. So stop and breathe. Take a number of deep breaths. And if you find that you're still slightly agitated, take another couple of deep breaths. Breathing's good. You should do it. Then look at last week. What happened? What went well? What didn't go well? What could you do differently? Then look at next week. Now, for me, the way I do it is I have 4 or 5 different calendars, a digital calendar, so Google calendars, because I have a number of different businesses and different things go into different calendars. But what I do is I consolidate all of that down into one paper form. I've got this is my week, and I write down, 10 o'clock here and then 12 o'clock there, and I've got a 3 o'clock over here and a 4 o'clock there. Write all that out. Those are the things that can't move. Now, they can move. I can move them if necessary. But what I then do is look at consolidating. So I've got a 4 o'clock and then I've got a 1 o'clock. Could I move the 4 o'clock up to a maybe 2 and then do 1, then 2, and then I've got more time to do some more focused work in that space? Not always necessary, but I look and see if that's possible. The next step is the most important. What important non-urgent stuff do I want to get done this week? Now, an important non-urgent is something like redoing my price list. Now, my clients don't care if I redo my price list. No one's going to chase me on it, but it is important. It's just not urgent. All right. What important non-urgent things are you going to get done? Now, the emergencies in your week will take care of themselves. You do not need to worry about them. I give it no time in my planning. What might go wrong? Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I don't plan for that and go, okay, well, on Tuesday, this disaster might happen. No. Disasters, we're going to put some space aside for those later. Well, what is the important non-urgent stuff? And this will absolutely change your business. If you manage to do 2 or 3, even 1 important but non-urgent thing each week, in 52 weeks, your business will have leaped forward. Important non-urgent stuff. These are the boulders in your week. You put those in and let the emergencies flow around them. Now, In terms of weekly planning, the unexpected. Now, you will have a reactivity quotient, and that's just a fancy way of me saying, how interrupted do you get? How many emergencies do you have to deal with? How many fires do you end up putting out during your week? I had a lady, she was a senior manager in an educational institution, of which I will not mention. It's TAFE. And she was putting out a massive amount of fires. Her week was like 90% or 85% firefighting. So at the start of the week, so when I talk about firefighting, it's one of those things where at the start of the week, you couldn't possibly have predicted it would happen, right? But consistently, hers was like 80%. So how she was trying to fit in about 10 to 12 hours worth of meetings in a 40-hour week, when realistically she could only probably spend 4, maybe 5 hours in meetings. And so she was constantly frustrated because her reactivity quotient was so high and she didn't allow enough space for it. So what we do is you say, okay, well, I might get interrupted maybe, for 4 hours. Great, put 4 hours down somewhere as overflow in your week. Plan for it. Now, while I said you can't, I didn't, but people think you can't plan for the unexpected. Is that true? How different is your week every week? One week you have 1 hour of disasters, and the next week you have 50 hours, and the next week you have 2 hours, and the next week no. Everybody seems to have about the same amount each week. It will change over time, but it's not changing by a huge amount mostly. And so allow some overflow time for that. Now, when I started this weekly planning, I would actually keep pretty much all of Friday available for overflow. So if anything happened on the Monday that completely blew everything out of the water, what I would do is look at the tasks that were aligned for that time, and I would move them into the overflow of Friday. So I don't shuffle everything along, which I call caterpillaring. You caterpillar your time. You say, well, I'll move that to there, and that to there, and that to there, and that to there, and that to there. And before you know it, you're just going, oh, what am I doing? Take one thing and move that to the end. And because you've already got overflow time, you can alert the stakeholders. So if you were doing something for someone else and you'd said, oh, look, I'm going to get that done on Monday, and Monday the wheels fall off, you can immediately phone them and say, hey, look, the wheels just fell off. I'm not going to get a chance to get it done now, but I have scheduled it in for Friday. Now, if you've got overflow time elsewhere in your week, you can move it to there. But what this does is it removes the stress that having overflow removes the stress that you can't control your time, because you absolutely can. How much overflow time do you need depends on your reactivity quotient. So how many fires do you end up putting out? Allow 4 hours, just Friday afternoon or Friday morning. Allow 2 hours. Perfect. If that's all you need, great. I tend to allow about 4 hours, and then I also use Sunday mornings because my wife teaches every Saturday mornings. My wife teaches every Saturday morning. She has lots of students come through, so I kind of have that time as an extra overflow time. So even though I run, depending on how you count it, 4 businesses and serve on the board of 2 others and run 3 charities, I don't get stressed out because I have so much overflow time, I can just fit stuff in when necessary. Weekly planning, review, put down the set things, so the set moves, so your meetings, whatever. Then look at your important non-urgents. Make sure you have enough overflow time. And lastly, review on a Thursday morning is best practice. The reason we review the plan on the Thursday morning is that it gives you plenty of time to shuffle stuff around. Let's say you've done none of your important non-urgents. You had 3 things on the list and you've not done any of them because of emergencies and stuff. Then you have still got 2 days in the week to try and squeeze that in. All right. Let's jump straight. Let's go past the monthly plan. Monthly, yeah, I mean to change that to seasonal, because I don't do monthly, but I do encourage seasonal planning for businesses that do go through seasonal changes. So, for example, the plumbers that I coach, winter is the hot water season. And then summer, they start looking at pools and what other things, and then you get blocked drains and that sort of stuff. These things are actually quite seasonal for them. And so we do seasonal planning for them, so they know when to bring in the apprentice on, or the next apprentice, or get the next truck on the road, or whatever it is they need. So if your business is seasonal, probably have a think about what kind of seasonal planning you should be doing. But I'm going to move to the 12-month plan, because it turns out that if the calm weekly version of yourself is the best person to plan your week, and by the way, when you do that, just do what they say. If they get it wrong, they'll get it right next week, right? It just takes the pressure off. I do not make decisions through the week about where I need to be spending my time. I leave that to Sunday Stew. That guy knows what he's doing. He's got pretty good at it. I kind of almost trust him now. So if turns out if the calm weekly version of yourself is the best person to plan your week, then the holiday version of yourself is the best person to plan 12 months. What are you going to get done in the next 12 months? If you don't have a 12-month plan right now, just look at, maybe do your month. I wouldn't be planning 12 months without a good chance to relax and reflect and calm down first and get to be my best self. That is the guy that I want to have planning, because he's already pretty good at planning weekly stuff. He's pretty good at planning seasonal stuff. And if I give him a good chance to relax and let him just chill, then the yearly stuff happens. So what is the important non-urgent stuff I want to achieve in the year? I tend to use titles. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last time I ran this, but titles to me are really, really effective. So let me give you an example. If I say Nepal, in your brain, an entire set of images and concepts have just leapt into your brain, and yet all I said was one word. I didn't describe it. I didn't give you all sorts of information about it. I just said one word. And depending on your experience, a whole bunch of things have jumped into your brain. If I say Africa, another whole bunch of things have jumped into your brain. Now, if you have a yearly plan and you have lots and lots of details in your head, it actually can slow you down. I don't want you to have a monkey on your back. I want you to have one word. What is the one title that will sum up what you want to achieve in 12 months? So as an example, one of my legal clients, he wanted to be managing director. He understood what that was. It meant some things to him. And when we first started working together, he was working as a lawyer. So he was being a lawyer in his own firm, but he wanted to move to managing director. Managing directors don't do this and they don't do that. He understood what it meant, but he wasn't capable of doing it just yet. And so over nearly 2 years, we moved him to a managing director. He's now stepping beyond that role into a new role, a new title. So you see how this idea of putting a title allows you to shortcut all of the things that you want to remember to do. What are the titles that you want to have in 12 months that will work for you? Does that make sense? Is there any questions on that? I know it's sort of not covered in the slide, but it's one of those sort of cheeky giveaways that I really like to put in place. The last one is your life plan. And, I think at this stage, anyone who says you should have a 5-year plan is just kidding themselves. COVID, you're going to change. Well, certainly if you're doing monthly, weekly planning, you're going to change and grow and be a completely different person in 12 months. So how would you know who that person is to be able to plan for 5 years? Now, I've worked really hard at this, and I think I feel reasonably confident I can do 3 years, but it's taken quite a lot of effort to be reasonably confident that what I want in 3 years is true. But what do you want for your life? And this is a fabulous question that comes down to personal identity. Who are you now, and who would you like to be? What's the next version of you that you want to be? And this is your life plan. I'm currently writing a book on identity, and I am working with the other life coaches, the PCCs, the professional certified coaches, and the master certified coaches in Australia. I'm holding a forum for them next week on the book I'm writing on identity, and how it is, from what I can tell and my experiments, the root to pretty much every problem that we have. It all comes down to identity, which is kind of cool. So who do you want to be? What would you put into your life plan? I have lots of beeps and buzzes. General direction, but struggle to make specific. Life seems to be too fluid. Excellent. So general direction, give yourself a title for that direction. How would you know when you get there? So if you're trying to go somewhere, you need to know where you are now, and you need to know what the destination is. So how will you know when you've arrived? Then you can start putting things in place. A lot of the time when I talk to people about their goals, whether it's life or business, firstly, they don't really know where they are. So setting any kind of direction could be going in the wrong direction, might be generally in the right direction, but probably not good enough. And they won't know what it means when they get there. So my question should be, who do you want to be? And how will you know when you're there? How will you know when you've got that? When you are that? And one of the cool things when I talked about that 12-month and that life plan, so the 12-month plan, and then moving beyond that into 2 and 3 years, is let's say you get to be who you want to be in 12 months. Let's say you've achieved that. Let's sit in that for a while. What does that do? What does that person want for the next 12 months? Does this still make sense to you? So that's the way I get to 3 years. So I project forward and I be the person that has already achieved the things that I wanted to achieve in 12 months. Now, once I get there, what does that person want for the next 12 months? So you can see it's the words to say it are quite easy. Actually doing it is incredibly difficult, or at least I found it difficult. I need to be the person that is going to have lived through this 12 months and achieved all these things, and then what do they want next? So now I'm that person. What do I want? What's the next 12 months look like? Is this in the right direction? And then let's be that person. Where does that lead? You can move forward really quickly. Coaching is one of those tools. It isn't a long, slow burn. At least it shouldn't be. It should be transformational. It should be reasonably quick. When I work with a client, we can do transformational change in 50 minutes. The thing is, and certainly with the way it was explained, and one of the ways it was explained to me was, imagine a car. It's already pointing, it's at the top of a hill and it's pointing downhill. It knows which way to go. All you need to do is find the handbrake and take it off. If you take the handbrake off, it will just careen down the hill in the right direction. You already know where you want to go. I've just got to help you find the handbrake. Some of that will happen in planning either your life plan, your 12-month plan, or your weekly plan. Now, I've given a bunch of little tools and tips there. I hope you've taken some notes that make sense to you. I will move forward because I know we're coming to the end and I've got to get to the tools. But if there are any questions, of course, please put them up. To-do lists, great for a great tool. And in fact, I remember I've actually had a couple of people tell me, you know, to-do lists don't work, so I don't do them. Why? Okay, awesome. This is going to be a challenge. Pomo To Do is my go-to for short-term tasks. The reason I use the app, so it's P-O-M-O-T-O-D-O, you can see it there. It's a red, the icon is a red circle with a white tick in it. And the reason I use that is because I can put small tasks in there, and when the pressure is on, what I'll do is I'll start a Pomo, start it, and it ticks at you, okay? And the more under pressure I am, the louder the tick. I turn it up, I turn the volume up. Now that might seem counterintuitive. Why are you doing that? If you really need to really focus, why are you turning the tick up? Because the tick reminds me, and this is how it works for me, the tick reminds me that's another second I'm not getting back. It's another second I'm not getting back. Come on, what are you doing? Tick, tick, come on, that you're not getting that back. You're not gonna, are you focused? Are you getting stuff done? So for me, it creates an almost artificial emergency, right? I've got 25 minutes to get this done. Go tick, tick, tick. Come on, let's go. And the reason that I turn it up when things are, I'm really under the pump, is because when I'm under the pump, it's easy for my brain to be jumping between tasks and go, I should be doing that, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be doing, no. This task, tick, come on, this task. That's how I use it. Now, as I said, I don't use this for every task and every job. That would be silly. But I do know that when I have used it and I do it more in the week, my week is more productive. Trello, the next one down on the list there. Trello is a project management tool. It's free, it's available online, it's available on your phone. I keep Trello boards for everything. I've got hundreds of them. If I'm currently, I'm looking for leases for shops. So I have Trello boards for every different property. It's got photos on it. It's got the agent's name. When the agent comes back to me with the pricing and all that, that will all go on there, and I can share that board with other people. I have Trello boards for every edition of the magazine. So I'll have what articles are going where, and then, you know, you can drag. So it's a list of columns. In the columns are cards, and you can move the cards anywhere you like, and the cards can have images and links to websites and documents and all sorts of cool stuff, and you can tag other people into it. So I do work in with a bunch of different teams. I have managers in different stores and different businesses. I have offshore people that do things for me. So I use Trello quite a lot for that sort of stuff. In terms of scheduling, Assistant.to or Calendly. There's a bunch of other tools there, but just have a look at where are you losing time. One of the first things to do in terms of time is to do a time audit, and I do this with all of my executives. So I do leadership coaching, and one of the first things I'll do with pretty much all of them is to do a time audit. So for a time audit, it's got to be a simple process. What I want you to do is write down what it is you're doing in 15 half-hour blocks for an entire week. But rather than just write down every particular task, I just want you to create categories of tasks. Now, minimum would be 3, maximum is probably about 9. 5 is probably good, 7 is probably getting a bit too high, 9 is really high. The idea is, where are you spending your time? Are you spending your time on marketing, customer service, follow-up, ordering? where is your time disappearing? And it's just in terms of big blocks of it. So if hours make sense to you, just write down it for hours. And I want this to be really simple. So I really encourage you to have a pen and paper, write down your categories and just put a 1. So whether that represents a half hour for you or a 15 minutes or a 1 hour, put a 1 against it, then write another 1, then write another 1. When you get to 4, put a line through it, that's 5. The idea is at the end of the week, what you're going to do is look at where your time is going. Now that you know where your time is going, oh, and by the way, you will change it just on the fact that you're measuring it. Measuring it will change it, but only a little bit. Then you can look at where should I be spending my time, or where would I like to be spending my time? Where is the best value for my time? And that will help you identify where you should either outsource, procedurize, so create a better procedure, automate if possible. Where are you spending your time that isn't valuable, and where are you spending your time that is valuable, or you want to spend more time in that area? And this will change over time. The reason we make it super simple is because I want you to do it again. Maybe next week, maybe in a month, maybe you'll know when you need to do it. Time audit. It's a really simple tool, but what it does is it shows you where time is leaking out of your week. There's a bunch of other tools there: communication, Slack, productivity, the most dangerous writing app. If writing blogs or writing stuff is something that you have to do and you get stuck, look up the most dangerous writing app.com. It's awesome for writer's block. The moment you start typing, if you stop for longer than 5 seconds, it deletes what you've written. There's also an insane mode, or hardcore mode, I think it's called, where it only shows you the last letter you typed. So you can't even read back what you've written. It really kind of hurts your brain. So let's have a look at homework. Hopefully you've made some notes. What I want you to do with your notes is I want you to prioritize them. So now go through and have a look. I'll put up what I will suggest in case you didn't get any homework. For those playing along at home, it was Mr. Green in the hallway with the candlestick. Mr. Green, hallway, candlestick. You have to go back and watch the start to understand. Anyway, there is no going back to the start. I'm just teasing you. It's just for those that jump ahead and go, oh, just show me what the end is. Hopefully you'll have written your own priorities now. So what I want you to do is actually prioritize them in order of what you think is going to help you make progress and you can implement. So starting at 1, and then if you need to rewrite it and make 1A, 1A.1, whatever it is that you need to do so that you can prioritize these action steps. And then I just want you to focus on that first one. Just get that one thing done. Trying to take on a million things is way too hard. But if you're just focused on one thing, which is why the titles, when we talk about yearly planning, are so important. You're not trying to do 25 different things. You're just trying to get that title. And for your brain, that makes it simple. Even though your brain knows that there are 25 things behind that, you've given it a title and that makes it easier. The idea behind a time audit, you're only doing, say, 5 tasks. That's way easier than trying to remember 100. I had a lady who had 120 things on her to-do list. She was trying to remember 120 different tasks. I'm like, come on, let's get that down to categories. So your brain is only thinking about 5 things. I know it's a trick. There's still 120. I get it. But your brain will handle it easier. You'll be less overwhelmed and you will actually be more effective. Kind of cool, huh? Have you got one thing to move forward with? So weekly planning, really, really important. Please do that. Overflow time, make sure you put some overflow time into your weekly plan. Plan to plan, then follow the plan. Download the tools that make sense to you and don't use those. If they don't make sense to you or you can't make them work, ditch them. All right, they're just tools. All right, I'm going to stop the recording there. I hope you've got something out of it. Please join me for other webinars. This has been a digital solutions webinar organised through the federal government program and coordinated by Business Station and Regional Development Australia. My name is Stewart Fleming, and I'll be coaching you again very soon.